Today we are going to look at the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom. There are presently 5 developers with examples of the F-4 model for FSX and P3D. 3 of them, that is Iris, Cloud9 and AlphaSim, have upgraded FS9 models that are in fact freeware. Then Milviz and Simworks have modern Payware models that are TACPack compatible. The TACPack enables combat missions in FSX and P3D with fully functioning weapons plus damage effects. The Milviz Sim is at study level with advanced system simulations and is consequently quite expensive. The Simworks model is very detailed and includes full carrier operations with a working model of the USS Coral Sea included. The freeware models are a bit fiddly to set up, but full instructions are contained in the downloads, which are listed in the show notes below. The Phantom is a 2-seat, twin-engined, all-weather, long-range supersonic fighter bomber, originally developed for the US Navy by McDonnell Aircraft. Proving highly adaptable, it became a major part of the air wings of the US Navy, the Marine Corps and the US Air Force. It was used extensively by all 3 of these services during the Vietnam War, serving as the principal air superiority fighter for both the Navy and Air Force, as well as being important in the ground attack and reconnaissance roles by the close of the US involvement in the war. First entering service in 1960, the Phantom continued to form a major part of the US military air power throughout the 1970s and 80s, being gradually replaced by more modern aircraft such as the F-15 Eagle, the F-16 Fighting Falcon, that's in the US Air Force, and the F-14 Tomcat and F-A-18 Hornet in the US Navy. It remained in service in the reconnaissance and Wild Weasel roles in the 1991 Gulf War, finally leaving service in 1996. The Phantom was also operated by the armed forces of 11 other nations. Israeli Phantoms saw extensive combat in several Arab-Israeli conflicts, while Iran used its large fleet of Phantoms in the Iran-Iraq War. Phantoms remain in frontline service with several countries and have been used as unmanned targets in the US Air Force. Phantom production ran from 1958 to 1981, with a total of 5,195 aircraft built. This extensive run makes it the second most produced Western jet fighter behind the famous F-86 Sabre, which had just under 10,000 examples. The F-4 Phantom was designed as a fleet defence fighter for the US Navy and first entered service in 1960. By 1963, it had been adopted by the US Air Force for the fighter-bomber role. When production ended in 1981, 5,195 Phantom IIs had been built, making it the most numerous American supersonic military aircraft. Until the advent of the F-15 Eagle, the F-4 also held a record for the longest continuous production for a fighter with a run of 24 years. Innovations in the F-4 included an advanced pulse Doppler radar, and extensive use of titanium in its airframe. Despite the imposing dimensions and a maximum takeoff weight of over 60,000 pounds, the F-4 had a top speed of Mach 2.23 and an initial climb of over 41,000 feet per minute. Shortly after its introduction, the Phantom set 15 world records, including an absolute speed record of 1,606 miles per hour and an absolute altitude record of 98,557 feet. Although set in 1959-62, 5 of the speed records were not broken until 1975, when the F-15 Eagle came into service. The F-4 could carry up to 18,650 pounds of weapons on 9 external hardpoints, including air-to-air and air-to-ground missiles, and unguided, guided and nuclear bombs. Since the F-8 Crusader was to be used for close combat, the F-4 was designed like other interceptors of the day without an internal cannon. In a dogfight, the RIO, or WSO, sometimes called the backseater, assisted in spotting opposing fighters, visually as well as on radar. It became the primary fighter bomber of both the Navy and Air Force by the end of the Vietnam War. Due to its distinctive appearance and widespread service within the United States military and its allies, the F-4 is one of the best known icons of the Cold War. It served in the Vietnam War, the Arab-Israeli conflicts, with American F-4 crews achieving 277 aerial victories in Southeast Asia and completing countless ground attack sorties. The United Kingdom operated the F-4 Phantom as one of its principal combat aircraft from the 1960s to the early 1990s. The UK was the first export customer for the Phantom, which was ordered to fill the gap left by a number of British aircraft projects that had been cancelled due to the state of the UK aerospace industry in the 1960s. The Phantom was procured to serve both the Fleet Air Arm and the Royal Air Force in a number of different roles, including air defence, close air support, low-level strike and tactical reconnaissance. Although assembled in the United States, the UK Phantoms were a special batch built separately and containing a significant amount of British technology as a means of easing the pressure on the domestic aerospace industry as a result of the major project cancellations. 2 individual variants were eventually built for the UK. The F-4K variant was designed from the outset as an air defence interceptor to be operated by the Fleet Air Arm from the Royal Navy's aircraft carriers, while the F-4 M for Mike version was procured for the RAF to serve in the tactical strike and reconnaissance roles. In the mid-1980s, a third Phantom variant was obtained when a quantity of second-hand F-4J aircraft were purchased to augment the UK's air defences following the Falklands War. Following the end of the Falklands War, the UK government began a programme of upgrading the defences of the Falkland Islands to guard against any further potential aggression from Argentina. One of the measures taken was the deployment of an interceptor squadron to the islands themselves, with 23 Squadron forming at RAF Stanley in October 1983. At the time, the air defence variant of the Panavia Tornado was still in development, meaning that the Phantom was the UK's primary air defence aircraft, supported by 2 remaining squadrons of Lightnings. Although there were some minor differences between the 2 types of Phantom built for the United Kingdom, there were many significant ones between the British Phantoms and those built for the United States. The most obvious one was the substitution of the Rolls-Royce Spey turbofan for the General Electric J79 turbojet. The Spey was shorter in length than the J79, but wider in diameter, which meant that the intakes had to be redesigned, making them 20% larger, with a consequent increase in drag. The Spey was more efficient at lower altitudes and meant that British Phantoms had better range and acceleration. However, they were less efficient at higher altitudes and also lacked speed compared with J79 powered versions. This discrepancy became apparent when the F-4J was obtained in 1984, which was regarded as being the best of the 3 variants to serve in the RAF. The small size of the aircraft carriers Eagle and Ark Royal, from which the Royal Navy Phantoms were intended to operate, compared to the current US Navy carriers of the period, meant that the F-4K version required significant structural changes compared to the F-4J. So that's a quick rundown of the Phantom models. Hope you enjoyed the video, and see you next time.